Hello YouTube, brother Sazh, 35 CP legend, is back and he's getting a rework in an LD. I'm here to talk about it. In this video, before you pull on Sazh, I'll go over the unit and the event and give you some things to think about before you use your limited resources. If you're not familiar here, I play both JP and Global and I use that knowledge and experience to inform others. I want to hear your plans and thoughts, so go ahead, scroll down in the comments, leave a comment with what you're doing on the banner and the event. And while you're also here, be sure to like the video, subscribe, become a member, potentially $1 for emotes, and I always respond to your comments, and hit the bell so you don't miss a video. Also check the description and the card, my weekly stream, the Ranting Hour, where I talk about more in-depth Dissidia stuff. It's pretty fun, my best content, so check it out. Last week we talked about the older areas of Dissidia, and it was pretty fun. Let's talk Sazh. If you're not familiar with this kit, his role in the party is to be an offensive support. He buffs the party with a lot of unframed buffs, attack, embrave, and crit rate, and his overhead gives him massive 50% crit damage up. His skill rework gives him some nice quality of life and ups his damage. His skill 1, and I'm only going to talk about the plus version because this is really the only one you should be seeing. The plus 1 being conditional on the enemy being debuffed, and if they aren't, just either use EX or HP plus. But it's a self-brave gain into a double brave plus HP with refund in the middle. This batteries the party based on damage dealt and inflicts a small attack and defense down to the target. Skill 2 did not change much. Sazh just gets some brave refund after using the attack and it got an extra brave hit. His LD gives him a massive buff to the party. The attack itself is 7 AoE brave hit plus single target HP attacks with refund in the middle. Sazh gets a free skill after this and a new buff. He gets more party attack up, which bumps him up into the 95% range, which is competitive. And assuming you have his LD boards, when you're attacking a broken target, you get 30% HP damage up and 30% stolen brave damage up for the party. Stolen brave damage up, if you're not familiar, is something that DPS units have, such as Sephiroth, Golbez, Ace, Jekt, and Tidus, I think, where when they do a brave hit, they actually receive more brave than they did for damage. So with 30% stolen brave damage up, if you do a brave hit for 1000, you're going to actually get 1300 brave. So in practice, this is brave damage up calculated after the hit. This 30% also goes beyond the brave damage cap. So the effect ends up being similar to Kate Sith, where the damage is added on after. And the higher your brave damage, the better this scales. I'm going to link a video to Nightingale90, who's a great YouTuber that I watch. He showed this in practice with Garland and Sazh. In the video, Garland hit a 14.5k brave attack, but ended up getting nearly 19k brave from it. Be sure to subscribe to his channel. Takeaway is that this is a very powerful buff in the right situation. Sazh's high replaces Unity that leans in the brave split, which makes total sense considering his LD. Higher brave cap means bigger returns on brave stolen up. His calls are useful because they apply his generics on buff start. It's also a double buff extend in your pocket provided you have his LD. His LD call is also solid for burst phases because it also gives 20% stolen brave damage up compared to his in-party 30 and 10% HP damage up. So let's give my analysis. As for Sazh's strengths, he is all about the buffs. He has a functional, I think that's how the math works, an 80% brave damage up for the party and then 30% HP damage up alongside that. Very good. Buff extend is a niche utility nowadays, but it's nice to have. He really turns everyone into a nuke. He is a massive boost to people with high brave caps who can hit those high brave caps but want to go further. Party battery on skill 1 means he's battering the party a lot more often, and giving stolen brave damage up to the party is incredible, and he's the only one to do this so far in current JP. His weaknesses are that his damage is not very good. His LD is single target and doesn't do that much. Skill 1 and 2 are single target HP attacks. Skill 2 is 1 HP attack and skill 1 is 2 HP attacks. That's not great. And he himself isn't really hitting those high brave damage numbers. He is an enabler, but he is not an enabler who is pumping out his own great numbers. His EX is outdated as well damage wise. And while all that brave damage up and stolen brave damage up is great on paper, as I always like to emphasize, HP damage will always be the bottleneck in this game. Brave damage will always have diminishing returns, and then at that point you want to raise your HP cap. So Sazh ends up being kind of useless on teams that can already hit their HP caps. And as we go into C90, it's easier and easier to hit your brave caps. So if those units don't need Sazh to go beyond to hit their HP caps, his effect is kind of wasted. Also, he relies heavily on his generic buffs, and if you have conflicts on the team with those, it could get annoying. Good teams with Sazh are units with a lot of brave hits who don't cap their HP attacks easily. Things that come to mind are Garland with his skills and his follow-up, Jekt for example. Ace's traps will certainly appreciate Sazh. Vaughn, Ida, Zell, Tidus, Vayne, Zac, and Arden sound like a nice pairing as well. You want to stay away from units like Balthier, Orin, Kuja, Kane, who can cap their HP themselves. Because again, once you're capping your HP, there's no point in increasing the brave output. As for useful fights, there's not too many unfortunately, aside from his own and the upcoming one with Fran where you want to hit range weakness damage, which Sazh needs some assistance to do anyways. There's a buff extend orb on Machina's fight that's upcoming, and way down the line during Safer Sephiroth's fight, where Cisne is the featured unit, they want you to crit, and Sazh can help you do that. Other than that, he's really just an Aurabot with a unique gimmick that can be useful in certain situations, which isn't really saying much. My personal plans are to pull Sazh. I need to resume the black guy saga. Slightly off topic, but I got a comment the other day asking if I'm black. What do you think Black Nero is for? It's not a creative name. I love telling that story. I'm an adult black male. Anyway, I like representing. Sazh's EX makes me crack up every time I use him. I like using him as a unit, and I like him in 13, so I want to run him. I got him in JP, but I didn't really use him that much. When I get him in GL, he's a blue on sight. He's going to pick up Barret Slack, or maybe I'll run those two together. He's got Palom LD on his banner, which is very depressing. And Lease EX, ugh. That made for a truly horrible JP showcase. Anyway, the event is fairly simple. It's a mission dungeon again. I think this is actually the last mission dungeon we ever get. It's versus the Gladio bosses, and they are immune to attack down and taunt, so I will not be running Zach here. The actual orb is to do crit damage and it's +3 with a max of 10. If you no turn these guys, all you gotta worry about is the brave gains they do at thresholds like they did in Gladio's Lost Chapter. It's a huge defense spike. Again, it's just a copy paste of that boss. So you need to find a way to gravity it down, and you can't do any brave gains till you break them. You can play it exactly the same as Gladio's Lost Chapter, honestly. I think it just has more HP and you'll be good. But now we have even better tools. You can actually counter the defense spike with Orin or something, and it's really not hard to crit in this game. So provided you can mitigate well enough against these guys, then this fight's pretty cake. I think Kate, Barret, and Kais can guarantee crits, so if you're really struggling with that, maybe pull them out. Path of Least Resistance is definitely send them to the Shadow Realm. Just know that they're immune to instant break when they do their giant brave gain, so you gotta set them to 0 or use gravity. Or just drop their defense far enough to where you don't notice it. In JP, I ran Sazh, Kuja, and Zidane for a team of brothers. If you know, you know. Zidane is fantastic here because he can gravity the bosses and send them to the Shadow Realm, and you can just keep critting forever because the bosses won't ever do anything to you because their turns are deleted. Zidane Chads rise up. In GL, I think I'm probably going to let these guys have turns, inject Orin, Sazh, and clean these guys up. Also, another option that sounds fun is running Maria to brave shave them before their turn so we don't have anything dangerous. Maybe Maria, Lena, and a DPS. But I want to run with Sazh, so probably the former team. So now before you pull, what's my advice? This is not for people who've already decided, do what you gotta do. It's just for people on the fence, some things to think about. I think if you're already flush in support, Sazh probably isn't bringing anything new to the table. This is going to be my constant criticism of brave damage up and brave cap units, because brave damage up has diminishing returns that we know with C90 around the corner. So unless you're running units that really need brave damage up and brave cap up to hit their max on their follow-ups, like Garland is a perfect pair for Sazh, for example. Although Sazh does have the 30% HP damage up, he doesn't have the HP cap along with it. If you have Lena already, she's probably a better boon to your roster than Sazh would ever be. Although I think if you plan to run Jekt, Garland, Vayne, and then Null in a month, units with a lot of brave hits, then Sazh is probably a great idea for your roster. But if your runs need more HP caps, then Sazh ain't it. It doesn't help that his banner's kind of bad. Jagran BT, Lease EX, and Palom LD, ugh. He does come back with C90 on Irvine's Intertwined Will, and Irvine's solid, and Sazh gets a nice damage boost on his EX there. But I assume when he pulls up around then, most people won't be chasing him either. So if you're on the fence and completing content comfortably, I don't think you're missing out on much if you skip Sazh. But if you do get him, just know that you gotta pair him with those units who love that extra brave cap. That's all I got though. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, memberships, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.